Okay, now in this section, 6-4, the topic is rectangles. Now, remember, don't forget, a rectangle is a parallelogram, right? And so what that means is, since a rectangle is a parallelogram, that it has all of these four properties for being a parallelogram, right? So the opposite sides are congruent, right? So the opposite sides are the same in a rectangle. Top and bottom are the same, the left and right are the same. The opposite angles are congruent. And so if they're all 90s, then yes, the opposite angle, 90 and 90, they're congruent. The consecutive angles are supplementary. Yes, the consecutive angles are 90 and 90, which adds up to 180, so that's true. And the diagonals bisect each other. And so the diagonals, they cut each other in half. Okay. Now, in addition to those four, okay, a rectangle has two more properties. First of all, it's got four right angles, we know that, and the diagonals are congruent. So not only do the diagonals cut each other in half, the diagonals AC and BD, they are the same, right? So if this one's 10 and that one's 10, they cut each other in half to 5 and 5 and 5 and 5. So in a rectangle, all four pieces of the diagonals have to be the same. So if from here to here is 5, then all four of them have to be 5. All right, so that's unique to a rectangle, okay? So in a parallelogram, they just cut each other in half. But in a rectangle, they've got to also be the same. Okay, so that's the difference. Those are the two properties that will add to the four for being a parallelogram. And so in this next type of problem, this quadrilateral is a rectangle. And by the way, that's the correct way to name a four-sided figure or a polygon in general. You start with one of the vertices, and then you go all the way around in the same direction. So in other words, I'll call this A, B, C, D. It's got to go in the same direction. You could go clockwise or counterclockwise. That's not important. But if you start with A, then you have to go in a certain direction. Like I can't call this A rectangle A, B, D, C. All right, you've got to go around in the same direction, A, B, C, D, or you could call it rectangle A, D, C, B, or you could start with a different letter other than A. You could call it C, D, A, B, and that's the same thing. But just remember, once you start in a certain direction, you've got to continue on in that same direction in order to make it work. Okay? All right, the next thing that we're going to be looking at here is trying to solve this problem. It says BE is equal to, here is BE, 4x minus 6, and DE is 2x minus 8, and we want to find x. Well, BE is this part of the diagonal. DE is the other part of the diagonal. And remember, the diagonals bisect each other, so they have to be the same. So what am I going to do for an equation? I'm going to set these two equal to one another, and I'm going to get 4x minus 6 equals to 2x plus 8. All right? And then we'll go ahead and solve it for x. We need all the x's on one side, regular numbers on the other, so 4x is going to stay where it is, but the 2x is going to come over and change from plus to minus, so it'll be minus 2x. What's here that's staying put? The 8. What's going to join it? Minus 6 is going to change to plus 6. So I just moved both of those terms in the same step. It saves you some time rather than saying subtract 2x and then add 6 to both sides. You just accomplish that all in one step. Remember, the rule is whatever sign it is on one side, the term will change signs on the other side. Plus 2x on this side is minus 2x on the other side. Minus 6 is plus 6 on the other side. So 4x minus 2x is 2x. And then that 8 plus 6, that's going to give me 14. Then I'm ready to divide it by 2. And then my x is going to be equal to 7. And we are finished because it asked me to find x, and that's what I have done. So we are finished. What about the next one? AE equals 10x minus 8. Well, where's AE? That's this piece of the diagonal. And BE, which is this piece of the diagonal, is 8x plus 4. Now look at these two parts. This half of the diagonal and this half of the diagonal. Now remember, the diagonals are congruent. So what did we say? All the halves are congruent, right? So this actually equals to this in a rectangle. So we're going to set them equal again. We're going to go 10x minus 8 equals 8x plus 4. Okay, so again, I need all the x's to one side. 10x minus 8x, move it across, change the sign. The 4 is staying put. What's going to join it? Minus 8 changes to plus 8. Don't forget, when it goes across, it has to change sign. 10x minus 8x is going to be 2x, and 8 plus 4 is going to be 12. Now I'm ready to divide it by 2, and when I do, I get my x is equal to 6. Now, that's not the answer, because what did they ask me to find? AC. So make sure that you answer what the question is asking you for. If it asks for x, you're done. But if it asks for something else, make sure you get it. Now, they're asking me for AC. They did not give me AC in the problem in terms of x. AC is from here to here, right? AC is from here to here. Well, remember, AE is half of AC. So if I plug into AE, get that part, I would have to do it times 2, and then that would give me the AC. All right, so let's plug it in. 6 times 10 is 60, minus 8 is 52. So this half of the diagonal is 52. Well, if this half is 52, the other half is 52, right? And so if I wanted the whole thing for AC, I just need to add those two together. 52 plus 52 is 104, and then that's going to be the length of AC. And then that will be your correct answer there. Okay, so here's the next problem that we want to take a look at here. And of course, it tells us that the quadrilateral is a rectangle. And so in the first problem, okay, it says that the measure of angle BEC is 68. The measure of angle BEC is 68. Let's find it. BEC is here, and it's 68. Okay, so the question is, we want to find the measure of CBD. CBD is here. So this is the angle that we want to find. All right, now, okay, on a problem like this where they're asking you for these angles here inside of this triangle that is formed, here's the thing to remember, okay? The diagonals are congruent and they bisect each other. So basically all 4 pieces of the diagonal are the same, which means that these two sides are the same. And so in a triangle where 2 sides are the same, remember from a previous unit, that is an isosceles triangle, right? So this would be an isosceles triangle. And don't forget, in an isosceles triangle, the opposite angles or the base angles are congruent. So whatever this angle is, if it has 1 mark, I'm also going to put 1 mark here, because these 2 angles would be the same. Then the other thing that we have to remember also from that triangle unit is that all of the angles inside the triangle are going to add up to 180. And so if I wanted to see what these 2 missing angles are, then I can just go 180 minus 68. That means there's 112 left for these 2 angles. But remember, these 2 angles are the same, so that means it just needs to be split in half. So divided by 2 means each one of them is going to be 56. So this angle is 56, and the one that they asked me for, CBD, is also 56. All right, so another thing that you can see too with this lesson is you got to make sure you remember how to identify angles, like how we did from Unit 1. Angle CBD, CBD. Remember, the middle letter is the vertex. That's this angle. All right, so we got to remember how to name the angles and how to identify them. Okay, so we have another problem now that we want to look at. And it says the measure. I'm going to go ahead and erase all this stuff from the old problem to make way for the information from the new problem. So the measure of AED, all right, is going to be 5x minus 10. So that's this angle right here. So we'll identify that one, AED. It's another one in the middle there. And the measure of BEC is 3x plus 6. All right, so these 2 are vertical angles, and of course we learned that again from Unit 1, and vertical angles are congruent. So those 2 vertical angles are going to be the same. So I'm going to put 1 mark here and 1 mark here showing that those 2 are the same. And we want to find the measure of AED, which is the first one. So our strategy here is to create the equation, solve it for x, plug the x back into here, and that would give me the measure of AED. So we've already seen that these 2 angles are vertical angles, and so they are congruent. So what I need to do is I just need to set them equal to each other. So my equation here is going to be 5x minus 10 equals 3x plus 6. Okay, so I need all the x's one side, regular numbers to the other. 5x, minus 3x, because remember when it goes to the other side it'll change sign. The 6 is staying put. The 10 will go across and change sign from from minus to plus. And so we've got 2x equals to 16 divided by 2. And so now we've got x is equal to 8. X is equal to 8. Now remember, that's not your answer. The reason why that's not the answer is because the question didn't say to find x, it said to find AED. So I've got to take the 8 and plug it back into angle AED. All right, so I need to go 8 times 5, right? So 8 times 5 is 40. 40 minus 10 is 30, and so 30 is the correct answer. All right, so in this lesson, it's all about using the properties and the information that they give you to set up the equation that you need that will allow you to solve for x and then plug back into whatever part that they ask you to find. All right, so that's it for this lesson, and now you're ready for the quiz.